folks. Welcome to an all-new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and it is This is Thursday, right? This is your Thursday episode. How is everybody doing out there? I hope you're doing great. This is going to be a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills recap. Guys, we got a good episode this week. I thought this was a fantastic episode, and I got to tell you, this PK Kemsley, this guy is on my shit list. It just makes me want to turn into the Incredible Hulk and smash things. Oh my God. Man, you feel for Dorit in this episode. And it really, and then we go to Augusta and we meet Sutton's mom, which really gives us a window into who Sutton is. There were so many horrific elements to this episode. I thought it was, and we got Kathy Hilton back. We have Martin, Erica Jane's interior designer, there for like one quick scene. I mean, it was a really, really solid episode, and it got me so excited about this series again, because I was really starting to fall off with the texts and the memes and so on and so forth. But I felt like we got so much information, and it was really eye-opening. That window into Dorit's life and what she's been living was just astounding to me. I don't know if you guys felt the same. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I do want to mention a couple of things up top. Listen, I do stupid voices. If you don't like the voices, do yourself a favor, and I say this in the nicest way possible, skip it. Skip this episode. Plenty of other things to listen to. Not even just my podcast. There's so many amazing podcasts out there. But I'm putting out so much content that there is something out there for everybody. So don't get yourself frustrated by listening to something you don't enjoy, right? I love doing these. These are some of my favorite episodes. These in the Salt Lake recaps. I believe we're going to start the Summer House recaps next week. And guys, I want to tell you about this moment in the Summer House premiere so bad, and I can't. And I know somebody's going to probably ignore the Bravo NDA and say it, but I want to say it so bad, and I can't say it. I wish I was one of those podcasters that really just tried to like break news. But I can't. I'm too guilty. I hope you're doing well. Also, if you're we put these up on YouTube, but I do want to let anybody watching this on YouTube know the audio podcast has it has different things in it. So you might be missing parts of the show or an introduction, like yesterday's show, which I had the most fun with, Amy Archer from Little Miss Recap. I did like a 20-minute Bravo breakdown in the beginning that I don't think is even up on YouTube, where we talked about Paige and Craig and Marcus Jordan getting busted and Andy Cohen's baby shower from 6 years ago. I mean, really important stuff you could be missing. So go check it out on the audio podcast. And if you do, rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It always helps. Shout out to the Chumps, the Jeff Lewis Chumps. I was on Jeff Lewis live today with Zach Noe Towers, and it's always a blast over there. Jeff is doing this thing called ChumpCon in April in Vegas, and it's like this 3-day like Coachella BravoCon-esque event that I think I'm going, or I think I'm a part of it, but I don't know if my body will be able to withstand that. I mean, it is just, if you know Chumps, they go hard, and I used to go hard. I'm already looking into life insurance policies and things of that nature. I'm already trying to sign off the rights to this podcast in case something happens to me that weekend. Who should I leave the podcast? I don't think anybody would want this, but who should I leave the podcast to? I guess I could leave it to my dad. Oh my God, what if my dad just took over for me? That would actually kind of be entertaining. I wanted to say that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Heather Cornelison. She is our new member of our Patreon, patreon.com/so bad it's good. Wanted to give her a shout out. I am working on my another Q&A episode, or the part 2 of the hour-and-a-half one I did on Sunday, because there were so many good questions. So I've been dilly-dallying with that, but it has been a busy day. I was over at Jeff's, and always funny, and I don't know, I just always have a great time. And he was not teasing me. He found out I did a 4.5-hour podcast about the Baldoni Lively mess. And yes, I did that. And he was just tell it to me in like a minute. And I kind of did tell it to him in a minute. And then I'm like, oh my God, I potentially made that podcast 4 hours and 29 minutes too long. But I was shocked because I didn't think anybody would listen to that podcast because it was just so long. And I put a lot of information at the very end in terms of like, I gave my ATM PIN code. And then it turns out a lot of people did listen to it because I'm still getting messages that's parroting back my ATM PIN code. So go figure. Hey, maybe for good luck, I'll just leave a hidden message at the end of every podcast just for good luck at this point. And also to test you guys if you actually listen. But it was so great. The look of disgust on Jeff Lewis's face when he goes, a 4.5 hour podcast. I'm like, dude, I wish I could do what Jeff does. Like, it's always just easy breezy and he's fun. I mean, he knows the right questions to ask. He gets into it, but in like a funny, I don't know. It's just not me. I gotta go long. I don't know. This is like an outlet. I've got to put everything into this and I just never can do anything succinctly. But listen, I beat myself up enough, whatever. Salt Lake City, we had the last part of the reunion tonight, and it was good. It was good. I think the only thing that's leaving me from saying it was great is that it's over, and so I'm just a little angry about that because I wish this season would have just continued forever. It was one of those things. I found so much joy. You know, we always write LOL on text, or I do, and I also put a lot of exclamation points, but I legitimately was LOLing. I was laughing out loud, and I will never get it. This is why you can never give up on yourself, folks, because Mary Cosby was one of the most hated women on Bravo at one point, and I found myself at the end just going, how is she, everything she says, she might not say it in the right words and the right sentence structure, but everything she says is so dead on this season that I was just aghast in the best possible way. So we'll be doing that recap. Also, we have some fun interview. I interviewed Abby Lee Miller, remember, from Dance Moms? She has a new show, and it was the first time I got to talk to her, and it was a hoot. It was so fun. So you're gonna hear that coming up. Also, to tease a couple of, you might be hearing actor and professional host of Deal or No Deal Island, Joe Manganiello, on the show very soon, probably Friday actually, before the Salt Lake recap. I used to be in acting class with Joe, and he's a great guy. So I got to talk to him, but we got a lot of great guests, a lot of great shows to talk about. But today we are here to talk about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. A special shout out, as always, every week goes to Juliana Carrozza, who takes the best notes on any show she does. She does Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for me, and it is, you know what it is? Because I'm a theater kid. I'm a theater nerd, and when you have a script to work off of, it lets you feel free to just be a bigger idiot in the best possible way. So thank you to Juliana, as always. I couldn't do this without you. Should we get into it? Should we do it? Okay, let's do it. There are so many other things going on in the world, but for this couple of hours, let's try to have a good time, forget about all the horrors of the world. I said horrors, not whores, and really get into this episode because I think it is worth getting into. Okay, so they did something in this episode that I love. They didn't start with like previously on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You immediately started with just like some piano tinkles, like on the piano, and all of a sudden you see the big lettering 2016 as we see palm trees and the sun setting in what I assume is Beverly Hills, even though most of these women live in Encino and far away from Beverly Hills. And you're like, oh damn, they mean business. They just put up 2016 in big bold lettering and piano tinkles. I was very excited by this. And we just hear, we don't see, we hear PK. It's like we hear PK in the background. What is PK saying to us? Can you hear it? Listen closely, folks. My darling Dorit, as I stand here tonight welcoming our friends and family, it's an opportunity for me to confess publicly. And he's crying. He snorts when he cries, but he's like on a microphone, and we see Dorit like tearing up in the audience, and she's like, oh baby, no. Oh baby, I'm a child of the world. And PK goes, it's you, baby, and you alone. Let's go through this world together in love. Let's go through this world together in love, at least for 9 years and 10 months, at least. But I mainly mean forever, right? And then we get this kind of supercut of their relationship, and it's in black and white, just real classy like. And we see like old scenes like Dorit coming out with these big gigantic diamond dangly earrings, and he's like, "You look unbelievable. I look like a giant stuffed baked potato, but you look unbelievable. You look radiant, Dorit. You look gracious." And she grabs his cheeks and kisses him. And then we see, this breaks, but we see little Jagaloo when he was a little baby. And he's like, "Jagaloo, what do you think, son? Yes or no?" And Dorit's like, "Yes, what do you think, Jag? Yes or no?" And then he's just beaming, this tiny little Jagaloo. We watch these kids grow up. And then we go back to the PK speech that we just saw. And he's like, "I can conquer the world with just one hand, especially if I'm in a circle jerk in Salt Lake." No, he doesn't say that. He says, "I can conquer the world with just one hand, as long as you, Dorit, you're holding the other one. I love you, baby." And you see him crying. You see her crying in the audience. And then we cut to another scene where Dorit's like, "PK, you bring a lot of color and purpose to my life. A life that is seemingly impossible to live if you weren't by my side." And we kind of see glimpses of like Lisa Vanderpump and other cast members. And then I see what I believe is this the Beverly Beach fashion show? We're still in black and white. And we see everybody clapping, and Dorit's like, "I was just thinking about my husband, my PK." And like she runs into his arms. And we hear the echoing of Dorit's voice, which is very jarring. "To the man of my life, to the king of my dreams, and the mate of my soul. Soul, soul, soul." And it echoes. And it is just, you're like, oh God, these editors, they put some time in with this episode, right? The only thing better would have been if they could have interspersed memes that PK had sent Kyle throughout the course of their relationship, like black and white meme, black and white meme, black and white text. And then we see Dorit in this like beautiful white dress, right? And he's like, "It's a dress I would expect you to wear." And Dorit's like, "We got it right the first time around. I don't want to tempt fate." And then we cut to the dramatic camera footage of the break-in, the robbery. Remember that Dorit had the putsta, the PTSD from? And PK is like, "I wasn't there." And Dorit's crying like, I'm okay. And that's where she grabbed Mauricio's ass. She didn't, but that's what Kyle, that's what everybody wanted to think. And then Dorit in another scene saying, "We had a really difficult year. He was spending a lot of time in London, and it was the year that I needed him the most." And then PK saying, "You have been through a really traumatic thing, Dorit, and also you have a lot of fear in you that isn't rational. And there are also elements that I don't consider are PTSD, putsta. I consider them more obnoxious." Remember that? And you were like, "Oh, PK, come on, man. You just say obnoxious?" And Dorit then in another scene going, "I started to feel like, is it possible if PK and I would not make it?" And then PK in another scene saying, "When I first met Dorit, she was not quite as high maintenance as she is now." Right? Real disgusting stuff, folks. And because where this is headed. Nowhere good. Also, do you believe that for a second that Dorit I always remember Dorit being, if you consider this high maintenance, I always remember Dorit being, she was never salt of the earth. She was a child of the world, as she told us many times. She spoke many accents, just a glamorous woman. And he's like, "Oh, she's high maintenance now." And then all of a sudden, you guys, in big lettering that covers the whole screen, it says NOW, which I looked it up, and that spells now. We see the back of Kathy Hilton's place, and you see these ladies dining together, which is a flashback to what we see at the end of the episode. And Bo says, "Do you think he still wants to be married to you?" And Dorit's like, "No, I don't." And Erica's like, "You gotta get out. You gotta get out." Of course, Erica knows the ins and outs of when to get out of something. But I'll tell you this, though. Erica knew what she was talking about in this final scene. You can Erica's still not my favorite. There's a lot of really weird things about Erica still. But she knows what she's talking about when it comes to this, and she gave it to Dorit straight. And then we see Dorit pop up in a talking head, and she's like, but I know this. If I have to go to war, I will go to war. Once you get to that headspace, it's not going to be easy to pull me back. And Erica just saying, you gotta get out. You gotta get out. Oh my God. Dorit saying, when it gets to that point, I mean, you just really believe it. This is smoke 'em if you got 'em, burn it all down, Dorit, and I am here for it. I've always liked Dorit, but in certain of the previous seasons, the last couple of seasons, I've been like, I don't think she's living up to her true potential, which is the weirdest thing to say when it comes to a Housewives show. But you're like, oh my God, she's more than this, and you see it in this, and just the anger and the fear and all of the emotions. And I want to take her at her word. I want her to burn it all down if she needs to. If this man's trying to screw her over, burn it all down. I mean, I guess you have the kids, so you can't do. You know what? I'm going to take back what I just said, but kind of lightly burn it all down, right? It's really troubling to watch. Okay, folks, this episode is season 14, episode 10, and it is entitled Sweet Home Augusta, right? What we just saw, it's titled Sweet Home Augusta. This is the description the cable company gives us. When Kyle gets emotional over her new life, Bose tries to make sense of her new... When Kyle gets emotional over her new life, Bose tries to make sense of her new future with her man. Sutton plans a trip back home to Augusta with Garcelle and Kyle. How does this description that the cable company gives us leave out the most important part of this entire episode, which is the Dorit stuff? To me, that is the best part of this. The Sutton stuff was pretty good, but you know what I'm saying? That was the great stuff. Anyways, we pick back up and we have bold lettering saying 1 week earlier. And we get shots of Beverly Hills and all the Gucci stores and the fancy cars. And we pick up on Kyle in her backyard, hosing down one of her 30 dogs, not Freddie Mellencamp, just her dogs. And she's like, Storm, why do you smell disgusting? This big bear of a dog. What did you get into, Storm? Storm, let me wash this soap off. And this Storm is just running around going, I'm a dog with a rich owner. Life is good, And Kyle's just like, I'm so lonely. Let me wash you, Storm. Storm! And then we go over to Martin Lawrence Bullard Fabrics, my favorite new character of the season. And Martin is talking to Erica, and he's like, your total for this is $37,000. And Erica's like, honey, I'm going to have to marry a rich lawyer again. By the way, is that Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer? Is he married? Like, Erica Jane should be, checking that dude out, or Mark Garagos, or one of those guys, right? But Martin's like, ooh, and he's, in this, kind of tan blazer with a white shirt. His hair's coiffed. He's got a nice little outline of a beard. Just really powerful stuff. And Erica blows out, and he goes, I hope that wasn't too much of a shock. And then Erica's like, I'm not going to have to hook on Sunset, so it's a good thing. And Martin's like, you won't have to hook because you'll be having so much sex in this new place that we designed for you. You won't have to do anything like that. Oh my God, I love this guy so much. But I love also Erica understanding that, I don't want to have to hook on Sunset, right? And then we go back to Kathy Hilton's mansion and we hear the phone ringing. And once again, it seems like they're in that room where they keep Kathy alive. She's always hooked up to something, and I love it. She's hooked up to some IV bag, and it's probably like NAD or I don't know. But I love that Kathy has it seems like a professional team of wellness people around her at all times, and there's 3 women in the room with Kathy, and she's laid up. I think somebody's doing her nails or brushing her knuckles, and she's hooked up to everything. And Bose, she FaceTimes Bose, and Kathy's like, I wanted to invite you to dinner. I thought it'd be nice, nice to have you and Erica and Dorit. Oh my God, I thought you were Kyle. Is this Bose? And Bose is like, I love it. And then Kathy's like, are those puka shells or pearls you're wearing? And Bose is like, these are diamonds, baby. Are you kidding me? And Kathy's like, oh, wow. Oh, you're definitely not Kyle then. Oh, wow. And then we zoom out of there, and then we're in Bel Air, and then we drop down into Sutton's house. And the reason I know it's Sutton's house is because there's a big clock with a cat, and the tail is just wagging back and forth of the cat. Like a cat. It's a very fancy clock, and we see Garcelle walking up, and Son's like, okay, look, I have a bar assortment, Garcelle. She has all the champagne ready to drink, all of this stuff, and Garcelle's like, wow. She's like, well, you got to be prepared over at old Sutton's. And then Son's like, oh, well, I have an ulterior motive for asking you over, Garcelle. And Garcelle's like, what do you want? Well, I wanted to, and by the way, there's a quick shot of Sutton's actual cat. And here's my deal, guys. Some of you guys are going to be very mad at this. The cat is looking so judgmental. And this, I think cats are beautiful, but this is my big problem with cats, is that they always seem so judgmental. And they don't know how lucky they're. Does Sutton's cat realize how lucky she is to be at Sutton's place? The dogs, at least, they always seem appreciative and love, and you're like, oh yeah, cats, I don't. It's like a little detail, but it always bugs me. Anyways, Son's like, well, I wanted to see if maybe you'd come with me to Augusta and meet my mother, And I'm like, oh my God, Sutton's asking Garcelle to meet her mother, and Garcelle's like, oh, my God, Reba. Well, and I thought it would be fun to show you Augusta, where I grew up, I say. And Garcelle's like, well, I would love to see that. I'm a little nervous about your mom, but other than that, I'm really good. And Son's like, now listen, I love my mother, I say, but she is very difficult, Garcelle. And she turns out to be very difficult. And spoiler alert, she's in next week's episode, and she looks even more difficult in next week's episode. Sutton in a talking head says, my mother and I have found ourselves in a sort of bad place the past 10 years. My mom still really likes Christian. Christian is her ex-husband, but I don't know if she really likes me, I say. I don't feel like I've ever made her proud or happy as a daughter. I have been resentful about my mother's praise on Christian, even after we were divorced. Oh, did you see Christian did this in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times? And I'm like, yes, I say, but do you remember my store that's so beautiful in West Hollywood, Sutton Concepts? Come on, give me some praise, mama. Isn't that dark? Right? I mean, this is what's so this is why I love these shows, is because you see these things and, it is, I think, relatable to some of us, is that our parents will have these little intricacies that are potentially so hurtful. You're like, yeah, but I mean, what about, I'm your child, right? And it also gives you a real window into why Sutton is the way she is, right? But we also saw pictures of Sutton and her mom. And we also had flashbacks of her mom, because this isn't the first time that Sutton's mom has been on the show, right? And I just don't think she has really interacted with any of the ladies. And I wonder what it was that Sutton had to do to convince her mom to come on, or if this is the first time Sutton actually wanted to have her mom come on to meet some of the other ladies, right? So Garcelle in the scene tells Sutton, hey, we need backup. And Sutton's like, well, let's ask Kyle if she can go, right? And she FaceTimes Kyle, and Kyle is literally in bed. And I have to tell everybody, it is daylight. We see outside of Sutton's window, it is daylight, and Kyle's in, I'm just in bed. Nobody's invited me to do anything, so I'm in bed. It would be so amazing if all of a sudden in the background we were like, well, who are you on the phone with, Kyle? It's me, Morgan Wade. But alas not. I think Kyle's just in bed at 5 p.m., which, seriously, though, goals, right? So Sutton's like, well, we're sitting here chit-chatting, me and Garcelle, and I'm going to Augusta to see my mother, and I thought maybe you might want to join us. And Kyle's like, you want me to come too? And Garcelle's like, have you met Reba? And Kyle's like, I have not met Reba, and does a little southern accent. She's like, sounds like so much fun. And Son's like, well, yeah, we can hang out on my porch. And Kyle's like, is everyone else invited? And Son's like, no, it's real personal. It's a personal visit. And I really would like to get to a place with my mother where I don't feel awkward around her. In a talking head, she says, Garcelle and Kyle are the perfect women to take with me on this trip because their mothers have passed. That's dark, because their mothers have passed and they inspire me to do this because my mother's turning 82 and I don't want to have any lost years with my mother feeling this way. My God, I love this sentiment so much, right? And it makes us think about all our mothers, and, you know, it's so true, man. You know, what I wouldn't give to hang out with my mother again. And Garcelle's like, well, you want to be gentle. She is 82. And Son's like, okay, well, wait until you meet her, Garcelle. She does not need to be treated with kid gloves. I'm just going to warn you. And Kyle's like, she's not giving feeble vibes. And Son's like, she is not feeble. I'm going to tell you that. She is not feeble. And Kyle's like, we best get to work. I'll bring some psychology books. Ha 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 ha. And then they share a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills laugh. And we cut to a new scene where a Bose arrives to Dorit's house. And Dorit, petting her little doggies. And she's like, hello, my darling. And Bose is like, hello, girl. Let's sit down because we got to talk. We had so much fun at the beach. And Dorit's like, so much fun. But Sutton, the way she came in, it was so abruptly. She just shut me down. And remember that scene from that was one of my, it wasn't one of my favorites. It was a horrific scene. But remember, is that Dorit started to open up about little Jagaloo finding out that, from the Instagram post, are you and daddy getting separated, right? And Sutton just comes in, immediately as Dorit is opening it up going, well, I think we need to get going because it does take us a while to get out there, I say. Which was just wild. And how did we never revisit that conversation? I like to believe that this was just editing and they did have that conversation with Dorit because it is wouldn't you want to get back to that conversation at some point? They had to have. Anyways, back in this scene, Bose is like, did you call PK? Did you tell him? And Dorit's like, what Jagger had said? And Bose is like, yeah. And she's like, I sent him a long text. I said, I know you're coming back from London soon, and I think it's a really good idea for us to get to a more friendly place, for the kids. And she goes, she never heard back from him. And Bose gives a look like, what the flying donkey dicks? Right? And then Dorit continues, so the day later I write back, really, PK? No response? This guy's too busy on his phone sending memes and little funny pictures, right? And Bose is like, oh, Lord. And Dorit's like, Dorit says, he writes back, quote, I'm at a friend's wedding. Have a nice day. And Bose gasps, does a full zoinks. And she's like, girl, no way. Can you imagine the little balls on this guy? That he's like, I'm at a friend's wedding. Have a nice day. She didn't even know he's at a wedding. He's overseas and doesn't write back to this text about their kids and then says, have a nice day. And this is where it's like, the more I get into shows, the more I'm like, show me the text. I want to see it up on my screen. I want to make sure this is exactly what was said before I have a coronary, right? And Dorit's like, when did I become the enemy? And she says, I haven't heard a single word from PK since he stormed out of the office when we were in therapy, Dorit says in a talking head, and screamed that he wanted a divorce. So isn't this new information as well? They were in therapy, and then all of a sudden, she's like, I hadn't heard from him. He's like, I want a divorce. I, PK Kemsley, want a divorce. I'm storming out now. Like, what is going on over there? And obviously, they have had their issues for years, but we just weren't privy to everything. Bose says, my concern, as has been, is just be prepared. And Dorit's like, yes. His return from London, it could go left, it could go right. And Dorit's just shaking her head. It could go in a circle or potentially a triangle, one of the shapes. And Bose is like, if he comes this week, and Dorit's like, and serves papers. And Bose is like, girl, what happens? Dorit's like, I'm moving in with you, Bose, my new best friend. And like Martin's like, I will get you a file, decorate your new pads, Dorit, and you're gonna be PK who because there's gonna be so many dicks just thrown at your new place. And Dorit is a gorgeous woman, right? I mean, come on. Do not get bogged down with this baked potato PK. But Dorit's like, yeah, that's all I think about all the time. Can you imagine? But see, now we're getting this sense of course she's like this with Kyle. Can you imagine this person that you've been married with for almost 10 years, have 2 kids with, built this life, a lot of it's been on TV, and then all of a sudden you are just put out to pasture. You are just shoved out the door, and you can't even get this guy on the horn. And of course she's going to be then doubly upset when she hears funny memes and texts are being sent. Oh, it just burns my hide, you guys. Doesn't it infuriate you? Why, I'm like, are you guys as upset as I am? I'm a grown man. And this is the most important thing in my life. We come back from commercial. We have some upbeat music. And we have Bose with her boyfriend that they're already planning a future together, right? Beautiful couple. They're at this Boulevard Steakhouse, and she's in this beautiful yellow dress, and they're doing flirties, like, I'm glad to be here with you. And he's like, it just seems like I haven't seen you in so long. And he kisses her hand like a queen, and some wine is brought out, and you're like, ooh, they're going to get to Freaky Town later. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, what are we toasting to? And she's like, it's up to you. And he goes, to us. And I was like, well, you can do a little better than that. Just us. But then he continues. He goes, learning more about each other and your beautiful smile. And so it's really sweet. And she says in a talking head, trying to find somebody that you connect with in LA in your late 40s, it is damn near impossible, she says. So I really appreciate my relationship with Keely. We are in our love bubble. Everything is fantastic. We are definitely goo goo gaga. We've been saying goo goo gaga a lot more, haven't we? What other show was that in recently? Goo goo gaga. Goo goo, you're making goo goo gaga eyes. What show was that we were just talking about? Anyways, the waiter comes over, and you always wonder like why they leave these waiter orders in the actual show. And also for the waiter, is this like a big break for them? Like, Mom, I'm on TV this week. I bet it's a little bit of both. Anyways, she's like, we need to have some conversations. It feels like we're hurdling some things right now. If we go all the way to like fertility and we have like cymbals clash in the music in the light background. I don't know what sound I just made. That was cymbals clash. And Keely says, at what point would you feel like I was wasting your time? Because I'm not going to say I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not saying that, he says. You feel like there's a timeline? Like, hey? And Bose is like, what? Really? In a talking head, she's like, yeah, of course there's a timeline. I mean, I'm 47. Where are the eggs? They're getting older, and babies don't grow on trees. Okay, guys, I was very confused when I heard this. I had always heard babies did grow on trees. I did some light research, Wikipedia this thing. I feel like an idiot. Babies definitely do not grow on trees. And I had to take I had to take a moment with this, but hope I didn't ruin anybody's day. But she's like, we got to keep it moving. So Bose says, if I want to carry a baby myself, Keely, I don't have a lot of time to do that. And typical guy, he's like, he rubs his eye. And she's like, and then I don't want to be out of wedlock. Right? I mean, he's like, we're on the same page, okay? Like marriage, of course, first, I think you're an incredible woman. I love the fact that you're not pressuring me into anything. I will tell you though, since the scene started, you can see some light dew, like kind of sweat buildup on his forehead. As somebody that sweats a lot myself, you can just tell he's like, not feeling pressured at all. Thanks for allowing me to move at my own pace. Okay. And now he's just like dripping in sweat. He goes, that's really important to me, just this time. In a talking head, she says, Keely and I's definition of urgency might be different. His right now might be my several months behind me, my right now. But regardless, I know that we want a future together. And so I believe in that. And that's what I'm waiting for, the future. And she does the Brittany Bateman, the heart thing with her hands. Together, heartbeat thumping, bum, bum, bum. When did we start doing that too? Anyways, she says, how are you feeling about us at this stage? Totally non-pressure question there. He says, I'm grateful I had an opportunity to experience. He feels like an American Idol contestant. I'm just really grateful for this experience. I got to meet Randy Jackson and Paula and Simon. It's so funny. He is saying like, no, I'm just really appreciative to know you. And she's like, yeah, you should thank God that I came into your life. And he goes, baby, I thank God every day. And she goes, you do? And then he kisses her. And I got to tell you, this is ending sweet. But at the same time, I felt a little weird with some of his answers earlier in this scene. I just got this kind of weird momentary vibe of like, wait, what? Baby and I don't know. Did you catch that at all? Maybe it's just me watching too many reality shows. So we hop out of that scene and we are at the Oak Tree Gun Club. Okay, good. Guns. And we see it's a Kyle scene. And I'm like, oh no. Kyle's training for some sort of gun. Like, I'm home by myself with just the dogs. I need to gun up. I need rifles, ARs. And she comes into this gun store, and guess who it is? Mauricio! He's in jeans, a tight t-shirt, and he's in The Agency, his real estate company. He's in a camo The Agency hat. And I couldn't see him at first because it was a camouflage hat. I was like, what? What is that? Oh, it's Mauricio. He's just in a camouflage hat. And he's like, look at you, all decked out. She's just in her normal Kyle outfit, like torn up jeans and like a tight top, right? And he's like, if you're going to get a license and you want to protect yourself, I want you to shoot this 38. Because I think that's a pretty good weapon. And she's like, it's so small and cute. And he's like, that's what she said. In a talking head, Kyle says, I think Mo wants me to feel safe holding a gun should I decide to get a gun and use a gun if I had to. I feel like this is setting us up for like a really tragic season finale. Like Kyle uses her gun at the wrongest time and place ever. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Did we need to encourage Kyle, let alone anybody, to buy a gun? What? So anyways, now we're on a gun. And by the way, like these people, they're close to divorce and they're out holding guns within a 5-foot radius of each other. And so they get out to like, you're going to be in 18 to shoot your guns. And Mauricio's like, ooh, it's great. All right. And Kyle's like, it's our lucky number, 18. Kyle says in a talking head, after the burglary, I was so afraid for so long. And we have a flashback to one of the reunions where Andy reminds us, he's like, there was a massive break-in at your house. Tell me what happened. And Kyle reminds us, every single piece of jewelry or handbag you see on this season is gone. So the gun teacher, that's what we'll discuss. That's all right. The gun teacher says, hey, why are you here at this range? And Kyle's like, I think it's important to know how to defend yourself in case of an emergency. And then the guy's doing some the gun teacher's doing some gun teacher joke. He's like, hey, slap that in there like the thing owes you money. The cartridge with all the bullets, right? And it clicks. And then we said, guys, the teacher's like, nice and smooth. And we see Kyle like shoot this fucking gun. It really is frightening. And Mauricio's like, there you go. All right. And he's like, right in the bullseye, Kyle. You're doing great, Kyle. You're doing great. In a talking head, Kyle's like, I would like to know that if I had to defend myself, I could, right? And if I'm going to, I'm going to be a badass. I'm not going to let Dorit talk to me this way. Not with this 45. And then Mauricio, now he's like, I'm going to shoot this 45. It's going to be loud, right? I'm going to shoot this, right? And they have these like these big ear goggles on. And Mauricio's just popping these things off. He's like, I'm the owner of the agency. I have a camouflage hat. I'm high. I'm all high on marijuana right now, right? And he's, I guess, shooting good. And she's like, that's impressive. All right. So the gun teacher's like, okay, we're good. All right. And then we do the classic trope of like, well, we just did an activity. Now it's time to talk about a relationship. And Mauricio's like, how did you like it? And she's like, I do like that actually. And they sit down and it's kind of like, you can just tell there's like little nervousness here. And Kyle's, this nervousness, right? And there's like silence between them as they're fidgeting. And Kyle's like, is your condo coming together? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty together. It's coming, I mean, it's as together as I'm going to get, I mean, I have like, my refrigerator has, it's got eggs. Well, I made, what I do is like, he's totally stumbling over his words. He's like, I eat a lot of, you know what I do? I eat a lot of soups, like, canned soups, And she's like, canned soups? And he's like, yeah, you just throw in the can of the soup, canned soups, little tomato, whatever. These guys haven't lost their spark. What are you talking about? Yeah. Sometimes I make a little sandwich. I take the slap of the meat on the cheese on the bread, and just a little sandwich. And Mauricio's like, how's it living at their house with the girls? There's a pause, and she's like, I mean, it's quiet sometimes. You're like in a new place, and it feels new and different. And I'm just in this big fucking mansion with everything that you could possibly want. No, she's like, you're in this new place, and I'm still living in our home. And he's like, yeah, yeah, no shit, right? Yeah, that's it, yeah. And she's like, I'm there with like, I'm in the place where everybody was, and it just feels different. Sad music plays as we can literally hear gunshots in the background. It's like the sad Beverly Hills piano. Dun, dun, pow, 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 pow. Super bizarre. And Kyle's just looking at Mauricio for a reaction. And he comes over and he puts his arm around her. Like, hey, pal. Hey, you little tough girl. Come here. And she leans into him and kind of hugs him from the back. And he puts his other arm around her and kind of puts his head down on her head. And at first I couldn't tell because of the camouflage hat, but it was Mauricio's head. And we hear Kyle crying. And we see that Mauricio has a bad arm tattoo at this moment. And he kisses her on top of the head. He's like, that's enough. I'm hungry for some canned soup. But anyways, Kyle goes, I'm sorry for crying. He's like, it's okay. In a talking head, Kyle says, I walk around most of my days hiding. What a struggle it is. And she cries in the talking head and she starts tearing up. I mean, this is tough, man. Been together for decades, family, businesses, everything. She says it's a very big life adjustment to live your life a certain way for decades. And we flash back to all of these beautiful family moments of Mauricio and Kyle and their family. I mean, honestly, I watched every season of Beverly Hills and I truly never thought that they would split up. I mean, I had always heard the Mauricio rumors, but I was like, rumors, right? Kyle says, it really is grieving the loss of someone who is still here. In the scene, as we hear gunshots in the background, Kyle's like, it's just weird sometimes, And he pauses and he's like, it is. She says, that's still really strange for me. And it's just somber music. It's real. I'm like, we need to get Sutton's mom in here, something. But all we hear is just gunshots and these people just looking kind of sad. And the sad thing is I think Kyle was probably doing better with the separation when it initially happened. And then as time goes on, I think women have I don't know. I don't know if this is, I think women grieve more, and I mean that as a compliment. Like they really do think about their feelings, maybe not immediately, but at some point. And I think men bat those feelings away and just move on. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but there is this kind of vibe of like, well, you snooze, you lose. Like let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. I don't know. It's a bummer. Maybe in like 10 years they'd get back to. I don't know. Sad. Okay, so Sutton makes him take a red eye at 4 a.m. from LAX to Augusta. And we touch down in Augusta Regional Airport, and immediately there's like a Beverly Hills like country song that starts playing because we ain't in Beverly Hills anymore. So it's like, well, now the day goes by that I don't love where I come from. Like, we get it, yeah. Well, not a day goes by when the ladies of Beverly Hills take a red eye. And then fucking Avi, I guess he sent Avi ahead, Sutton's property manager, and he's there at the airport with Sutton's French bulldog, June Carter Cash. Like, what is going on? Like, Avi was flown out ahead of time to make sure that he could pick up Sutton and Garcelle and Kyle. And Garcelle's like, Augusta, Georgia, here we are. And Sutton's like, I love this airport because it's very small. And they get their luggage, they load up the car, and they're driving. It looks like they got roadies. I think it looks like they got some alcohol, not Kyle, but the other girls look like they have roadies. And, they're looking at the beautiful Augusta, Georgia sites. It looks like a very pretty area. And Sutton in a talking head's like, I love Augusta, Georgia. It's where I grew up, of course. It's also where I learned the art of ballet. It's where it's where I first started feeling the signs of neuropathy in my feet. I used to ballet it up in Augusta. Also, I mean, does Augusta, I know it's like huge, like for the golf and all, does it have a huge thriving ballet scene? It must, right? That's where I learned the art of ballet for the first time. Must. It's where all my childhood friends are that I still have in my life. I say, I'm nervous. By the way, I want a Sutton spinoff in Augusta, Georgia with all her childhood friends and her mom. That seems like it would be just a shit show. She's like, I'm nervous when anyone meets my mother for the first time. It doesn't matter who they are, especially now, Garcelle and Kyle, because I've flown them all the way out to Georgia. Please be nice, Mom. She says in a talking head, oh my God, what if Reba was like, are you the lesbian? Are you the lesbianic one? Are you that one? God, that would have been. Anyways, they get to Sutton's house. Really nice house. It's a 2-story house. There's like huge 6 white pillars. The pillars go to the heavens. Front porch entrance. It's very plantation, right? And Garcelle's like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. Holy crap, you are such a little girl to be in this big old house. And Sutton's like, well, it's not that big. It's like 4,500 square feet, I think. That's pretty big, right? Like, that's a lot of square footage. Garcelle in a talking head says, I don't expect anything less from Sutton. The house is opulent and beautiful, and there's just this southern feel to it. It's old school, people on their porches having lemonade, waving to their neighbors. It just feels like that. You don't get that in Beverly Hills. Everybody's behind a gate. I mean, not Erica. Anyway, she's got that house. Anyways, Sutton shows them the rooms upstairs and says, Garcelle, I got you in here. It's called the princess room. And Kyle's like, now take me to the queen room. And Sutton's like, you got my daughter Porter's room. And each room looks beautiful, right? You wouldn't expect anything less. And Garcelle's like, Sutton, when did you buy this? And Sutton's like, well, I bought it with Christian. And Garcelle goes, so you got it in the divorce? And Sutton's like, oh, yeah, definitely. Garcelle goes, Sutton, this is amazing. You made it sound like it was this tiny house. But to Sutton, this probably is a tiny house. To us, this is like a mansion, right? So this poor Avi's just lugging their luggage to the rooms, and Sutton shows pictures and frames of family. We see Sutton's mother, Reba, and her friend, Jim. I love that the 82-year-old Reba has a friend, Jim. Like, all right. Yeah, get it going. Yeah, hell yeah. So Garcelle's like, hello, so nice to meet you. What a pleasure. And I'm like, what are we going to get out of this scene? So Reba comes in, just kind of, you can tell she walks with a purpose. And, Garcelle's like, nice to meet you. And Kyle's like, hi, I'm Kyle. And Reba hugs her like, oh, you're very pretty. You're very pretty. She didn't say it to Garcelle. She said, oh, hello, Garcelle. You're very pretty, Kyle. And Kyle's like, thank you. It's so nice to meet you. And Reba's like, so what's y'all's plan? And Sutton abruptly is like, we're going to dinner. We don't have a lot of time, Mom. So she doesn't just do it to Dorit in the middle of a scene talking about divorce. She does it to everybody. And Garcelle goes, I'll be right back. So I was like, oh, Garcelle must have to go shit or something. Garcelle comes back and she brought a present. And Garcelle's like, I hope this goes well. Reba, I bought you a little present just to say thank you. And she takes it. She's like, oh, thank you. And Garcelle's like, you got to open it. And Reba's like, I'd like to know what it is. And Garcelle goes, oh, why would I tell you? And Sutton's just covered her mouth laughing like, oh, this is so funny. And Reba's like, why are you laughing? Is this a trick? Is there a snake in here? And Garcelle's like, no, I would never do that. I wish now, in retrospect, Garcelle did put a snake in there. Reba opens the box, and it's like a nice I don't know. I don't collect nice scarf, like lady scarves, but it looks like a nice lady scarf. And Reba's like, a scarf? And Garcelle's like, yeah. And Reba mutters, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. And just sets the box down at the counter. And Garcelle's like, oh, you're welcome. You could just tell Reba is not, I want to use that as toilet paper. That's a toilet paper scarf. And Sutton is embarrassed. Garcelle and I talking head goes, I took the time. I went to Saks. I picked out a gift. I had it wrapped. I brought it on a commercial flight. Come on. And Reba finally takes it out of the box. You're like, well, you could use it as a sarong, I guess. And Garcelle goes, you could do that. And Reba's like, if you were skinny, you could. And Kyle's like, that's a beautiful scarf. In a talking head, Garcelle continues, well, maybe I should have pulled a Kyle and brought nothing. Kyle's like, here's the $100. Here's cash. I'm just going to give you cash. Garcelle says to Reba, I've heard so much about you. And Reba's like, well, I've heard so much about you, too. And Garcelle goes, all good, I hope. Well, not after I open that scarf. My God, you don't have taste. No, she goes, okay, well, I'm going to go to my house and have a drink. And Garcelle's like, where's your house? Oh, you don't know that. I live right back here. Just right in the backyard, you guys. And Kyle's like, can I peek in the backyard? And they go into this very large backyard, beautiful gardens. There is a really nice smaller house that matches the main house. Like this, as a kid growing up, did you ever have that thing when you're like 11 or 12 years old where you're like, I wish my parents would let me build a smaller house in the backyard of our house? I remember having like the wildest like I really thought, like, remember that concept of tree houses when you're a kid? And then, you're like, yeah, man. Like, I would daydream about tree houses all the time. But, like, my tree houses were, like, literally, like, there'd be, like, 2 floors, but there'd also be a basement area. And there would be, like, a zip line from my room into the tree. Like, I would imagine it all the time. And I remember thinking, I'll get some cheap furniture for it. I don't even know where these dreams came from because I didn't have money. So why would I ever think, like, I'll get a couch, a TV? Like, remember when you just used to dream that way? Just like stupid dreams that made no sense. And it was always something about being independent. But this, like, it's a dream backyard house, right? And Reba's like, well, after Sutton left town, she had to have some place to come back to for her and Christian and the children. And we decided that I should live on the property as well. And I saw this house in the back and I said, that is perfect. And Garcelle goes, I love your grandchildren, Reba. Very smart, very sweet kids. And she's like, they are smart. James, he's kind of weird, but smart. That James is very weird. I wouldn't trust him around my wallet, if you know what I'm saying. A very odd duck, that James, but very smart. Too smart. I don't trust that James. Like, who taught? You're on TV. Could you imagine if you flipped on to watch your mother on a show, which is already weird, and then your grandma talks shit about you? Oh, yeah. Hey, Mom, did Grandma Reba say that I was weird? Oh, no. She said you're weird, like you're weird cool. Very cool. That's what all the older people calling cool kids these days. Weird. In a talking head, son's like, Mom, why would you call James weird? He's like the cool one, which I thought was equally hysterical. He's the rock star of our kids. And then Garcelle goes, well, I have a weird one too. I have a weird one. Like immediately covers Reba's tracks for her, goes, well, I have a weird kid too. The producer at A Talking Head asks Garcelle, which child of yours is weird? And Garcelle's laughing. She goes, I don't know. I was probably referring to Jax. And then Reba in the scene goes, you got, well, I know, I've seen him. Yeah, you do have a weird one. I seen him on the old Instagram. Yeah, I could see that weirdo reminded me very much of James. Just a big old twin weirdos. Kyle in A Talking Head says, am I supposed to say I have a weird kid too? I feel like everyone has to say that now to make things less awkward. Kyle's like, I have a weird one too. And Reba's like, no, you're the weird one. Or she's like, no, you got a weird kid too, that the country singer. Do you mean Morgan? Yeah, you weird kid Morgan. Reba goes into her house and Sutton and the ladies go the other way. And Sutton's like, she called James weird. And James is the cool kid in school. I say, by the way. And Garcelle's like, I have one too. And, I know. And Kyle's like, Reba's been stalking you on the gram, on the old Instagram, Garcelle. And so we get out of that scene. So we already know, oh, wow, this is lively. And then we have a scene that brings us to Bel Air, to Kathy Hilton's house. And she is throwing a Capri dinner. And all of Kathy's, she has so many employees. She just has brand managers and people just working, just doing little things all around the house, prepping for the evening, barking instructions. The brand manager's like, I need that caviar now and the candles lit, please. I need 2 more silver. You would think this is like going to war. And also, like, does Kathy have a caviar room? Like, it just seems like caviar is everywhere at all times. In a talking head, Kathy says, tonight is inspired by my trip to Capri. She's comes down the stairs in a floor-length dress with lemons all over it and her handbag on her arm. She continues, I love pasta. I love lemons. There are a lot of factors when throwing a dinner party. I like to set everything up and have it look just spot right on. And she clicks her tongue. It's a lot of effort. I always love that Rick is just hiding somewhere in the house. I never let Rick eat with us. I will give him a TV dinner later, or maybe he'll have some of Mauricio's favorite canned soup. So we also hear the brand manager going, I got that. I need the wicker votive. I need the wicker votive. And Kathy's fluffing a flower arrangement. And then Dorit arrives, and she's greeted by a glass of champagne. Dorit needs this night. Bose arrives. These are all the losers that didn't get invited to Augusta. And they're sitting in the living room. And Dorit's like, hello, one of my most favorite people in the whole entire world. My Bose, my Bose. And Bose is like, well, let me put this glass down so I can give you a full body hug. Good, she needs support. Kathy floats in holding her flute. Hello, beauties. It's me, Kathy Hilton. Welcome to Capri. And Bose is like, the baddest has shown up. And this is when Erica walks in with her glass and she's like, ladies, ladies, ladies. Erica literally looks like she's dressed up for like a freak-off party. Like, wait, was the Capri, did she misread this and it was like dominatrix? Like, she looks good, but she looks just, she looked like, like something like an extra out of Blade Runner or something like that. And Kathy's like, gorgeous. Erica's like, I feel good tonight. I feel good tonight. Erica's trying to earn a little of that Martin Bueller design money. Bose goes, you answered like you feel good. And they all, do the kiss, overly complimenting each other. And Dorit's like, Lovey, I can tell you feel good. And then she says to Kathy, have you caught up to Kyle? And Kathy's like, well, I talked to her, but she's busy. And I guess they left today with Sutton and Garcelle. And Dorit and Bose look surprised, like, what? And Erica's like, they went to Augusta. And Dorit's like, I didn't even know. You have the connection to the South. I just want to know why you weren't invited. And Erica's like, well, I'm from the South. I'm like 90 miles north. And Kathy goes, well, I don't understand why I'm not invited. We switch over to downtown Augusta with the ladies, and they're just at this, it looks like just kind of a hole-in-the-wall place called Luigi's. And Sutton and the Talking Heads like, Luigi's, is an establishment in Augusta. I've been coming here since I was a little girl. I love it. This is where I learned the art of ballet and the love of good old Italian Augusta food, right? It's family owned here. I think there are 3 generations now. This is what Augusta is. We all know each other, I say. We all support each other. We love each other. And I just want to show Kyle and Garcelle what Augusta is. It would have been amazing if they walked in and it was like, just like neat, like record scratch and everybody just like is quiet. Like, what the hell? Where did these women come from? Space? Kyle goes, I love it here. The pizza looks amazing. Yeah. So they order their food and drinks. And Sutton orders spanakopit. I don't even know how to. Juliana wrote that. I don't know how to say spanakopita. It's like a Greek spinach pie. I don't know how to say. God, where is Angie Katsanevis when I need her? Garcelle goes, well, when Erica and I were getting our IVs, very Beverly Hills, and I mentioned that we were coming to Augusta, Erica said, she should bring that to the sisterhood. Remember, Sutton says they're all sisterhood and tied them up with all their hands with that rope earlier in the seasons. And Sutton's like, well, Erica and I push and pull sometimes. And this is a very emotional for me. And it's why I didn't want all the girls to come because God knows. Could you imagine Erica, Jane, and Reba talking? Like, oh, you're the woman that married that lawyer that stole from everybody, and everybody suspected you laundered money from him. Huh? I got your number, Miss Erica Jane. Oh, you gonna pat the puss for me? No, you ain't gonna pat the puss in front of Reba. Um, so Kyle's like, yeah, that's scarier than Reba. We swap back to Kathy's Capri night. By the way, they're out on the patio, and just this holiday party. I'll never go back to Kathy Hilton's house in my life, I'm sure. But I was like, I stood on that patio. I belched on that patio. It really brought me back. Kathy tells the ladies, I'm not a wine snob, but Italian wines, even though I'm Italian. And Bose goes, what, are you Northern Italian? And Kathy goes, I found out, yeah. And Erica's like, did you do 23andMe or Ancestry.com? And Kathy goes, no. When I was in Venice, this lady knew everything and knew, and then there's like a pause, I am part Chinese, 3000 BC. And, oh, if I was one of the cameramen, I would have just dropped my camera. Like, what? Like, she says it with a total. She goes, yes, I was in Venice. I mean, by the way, she's like in an alleyway in Venice. I was in Venice, and this lady robbed me for $300 and called me, said I was Chinese 3000 BC. But anyways, Bose is like, I'm sorry? Excuse me? And Dree's like, come again? And Bose in a talking head's like, girl, no, just no. And we got Bose at the table. Then she goes, well, may I raise it? No. Why the fuck are we cheersing at anything? Like, for me, the rest of this episode would have been like, okay, let's dig in. Kathy, you said something about being Chinese 3000 BC. Let's get a little bit more info. Like, I would have literally taken Kathy's blood work at that moment. Like, hey, you know what? Let's just do a backup. Just in case this random lady in Venice is wrong, let's just get it on paper. Like, how did we even go on with the night at this point? Well, I found out that I was Chinese, and I've got a little, obviously Greek, Italian. I'm also half black. I found that out as well. Happy Black History Month. Like, it was so bizarre. And this is where I think, you know what? I liked this episode because it had shades of Salt Lake City, where it was just so fucking bizarre at times. And then they would just keep it moving. Like the most insane thing wasn't just said. And to me, that's what makes Salt Lake City good. So I was like, okay, yeah, why question it? It's Kathy Hilton. Yeah, of course. You're Chinese. I got it. No, it makes sense. So Bose is like, well, may I raise a glass to Kathy? Thank you so much for having us over. This is much better than Augusta. And they all cheers. And then we go to Augusta where they're cheersing. And, Garcelle asks Sutton, hey, how are you feeling? And Sutton's like, well, the Reba. And Garcelle goes, yeah, that's what I mean. How are you feeling about being here? And Sutton's like, she's my mother. I love her. She's tough. She's a tough cookie. People say that we're a lot alike. And I don't see that at all. Once again, if I was a cameraman, I would have dropped my camera and been like, what? Like, you really don't see it? Do you not see it at all? Okay. But she continues, I'm a very much like hot on my sleeve kind of person. I've always been like that, where my mother, I don't know if she has feelings. And Garcelle goes, well, I've only met a glimpse of Reba, but seeing her, one, I think she was probably really tough on you, just because that's who she is. Not that she was targeting you or anything like that, but I think that's just her way, right? And then I think sometimes I could see you being like that in a way, right? And Sutton's just scowling at this. You're going, well, what are you talking about, Garcelle? I'll give you a free red-eye ticket to Augusta, and this is how you repay me? Garcelle in a talking head says, having just met Reba, I feel like there's a lot of similarities. Like, they're both tough. No one really wants to inch in and make amends or say, I'm sorry, but I hope they can figure it out. When they're gone, you would do anything to have one more conversation, to see them one more time, to hug one more time. You don't want to have regrets. Fuck you. Fuck you, Beverly Hills. Make me sad. I'm supposed to be making fun of Sutton. I don't want to think about my mom. But right, yeah, right. We've lost parents. You'd think that, right? God, it's so real too, because they once were so real. I mean, they are real, but you know what I'm saying? But then it's like Reba, just tough as a wall. And I do have to say, like, you can totally see the similarities, but you can also see where you almost have to give Sutton a little credit, because you can see she's kind of at war with that part of her persona. Like, we all see that with ourselves, with our parents, like sometimes I'll laugh and I'll hear my dad's laugh, or I'll be sitting and I'll be like, oh, this feels like I'm sitting exactly like my dad. And those are just like little physical tics. But then there's emotional tics that we take with us through our lives as well. Like I know with my mom, I've been talking about this with my therapist, where I'm scared to. My mom was always like, my mom was such a hard worker and so good at what she did, but she would also just be so. She'd always just be like, play it safe, play it safe, don't take risks. You know, if you got a good thing going, keep it there. You know, don't try to go further. Just be, you know, and you could tell, you know, that held her back at times because, and then finally, you know, she would get like a better thing. And I think sometimes she'd be like, oh, I should have done that much earlier. But I have that in me as well. Of sometimes you're scared to make those leaps, or you're like, oh my God, I feel so out of control right now because you're just not used to risking, or you'll hear your mom's voice of like, well, make sure you got something set up before you go for anything else. Like, I don't know. It's just these things. And I see, it almost makes you, like, I see Sutton moving past who her mom is internally a little bit, but at the same time, you still see it's there. But you're like, oh, this completely makes sense about who Sutton is. Like it just all came into, you're like, oh, this is perfect contextually, right? So Kyle at the table is like, I remember you telling me when you opened your store that you had a conversation with your mom, telling her that it was important for her to take you seriously. And she answered, okay, shall we continue on? And we have a flashback of that scene that was actually in here. And I remember like that was like a really cold scene. And Sutton can be cold, right? But at the same time, you see when she like wants to be really loving as well. And I think those are just kind of breaking those family traits. And Sutton says, well, it's just that in that moment, and Garcelle's like, you needed her. And Sutton is starting to like tear up. And she's like, well, I was so excited to have her at Sutton Concepts, my store. And it was real hard. It was just hurtful. And she wasn't trying to hurt me. It just did. In a talking head, Sutton's like, I worked very hard to open that store and to have my mother come in and not be supportive or overwhelmed with joy for me. I deserved better than that. I deserved better than that from my mother, I say. Isn't that the truth, man? Haven't we all felt that way at some time? Not even with like, just in any relationship. Doesn't have to be family. Where you're like, I deserved better in that moment. And I think, you know, like we've sometimes like poked fun at Sutton's store, you know, like, oh, but you know, you see how much it meant to Sutton. Like, I have a store. I have a brick and mortar. You can cut, sure, it doesn't open till 2, sometimes 3, sometimes not at all, but it's a store. Like, she was really proud of it. And she wanted other people, especially her mom, to be proud of it. And that's just sometimes not the way life works. You can't expect other people to fill in every hole that you need to be filled in, even if they're your family. So Garcelle goes, well, so Sutton, what do you want me to do? And Sutton's like, well, I want her to respect me. No, Sutton goes, so what do you want to do? And Sutton's like, well, I want her to respect me, maybe. That's what I'm actually looking for, respect. Aretha said it best, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. When Kristen and I got divorced, her first question was, well, who's going to pay for this? Like the car and the house and everything. That was hurtful. And Garcelle goes, well, her making sure you were going to be okay is not exactly negative. And Sutton's like, it was about her. And Garcelle's like, it was about her. And Sutton in the talking head goes, she was so nervous in the divorce that I wasn't going to have enough money to help support her lifestyle. I say, that was very clear. I learned that I was raised by a narcissist and I married a narcissist. Don't you think sometimes in 2025 that maybe we've started to overuse the word narcissist? Like everybody has narcissistic traits and qualities at this point. Like, I'll even look in the mirror and I'll be like, it's a narcissist. Like, you know, we just overuse this. But I found it interesting, and I also think, you know, Sutton potentially has some narcissistic qualities. And also, Sutton, you know, proudly tells us how much she makes in support every month from her husband. And so I found it interesting because, you know, she's proud of that money she gets every month because she felt, and she did help earn that by supporting her husband and helping him build in his business. So she earned that. But at the same time, you know, she's like, yeah. So of course her mom's the same way. But I think how Sutton looks at money is a little bit like her mom looks at money. It's just that Sutton, I don't know, it's really interesting. And I think that's also why the store is so important for her, because it's like, well, this is a revenue stream that has nothing to do with Kristen. I might have used his money to open it, but this, you know, but it's like hers, right? Kristen didn't open this. And Garcelle goes, do you feel like she's seen you? Like the difference between Christian's wife, the homemaker, the mother, to now being a businesswoman on your own? Do you just want her to acknowledge, like, I see what you're doing and I'm proud of you? And Sutton's like, she's not easy. In a talking head, Sutton says, well, I think that watching my mother for years gives Christian so much praise. And meanwhile, I'm raising these beautiful children, one of them just weird as hell. This Jay, I'll say it. Yeah, Mama's right. He's weird. He's a big old weirdo. And I'm raising the weirdo and the great one. No, I'm raising these beautiful children, and there's no Sutton, good for you. And now, living alone, starting a business, I do want her to acknowledge it. It's important. It's going to help me move on. In the scene, Garcelle says, I would love to have a conversation with her. And at this moment, I was like, no, Garcelle, no, please don't. Please don't, Garcelle. Let Kyle do it. Just don't, she already hated the scarf. That's not good. Kyle's like, what would you say to Reba? And Garcelle's like, well, pretty much that I've gotten to know you very well, and you've shared some things with me, and, see how we can bridge the gap a little bit, and then I'm going to run. And I'm like, yeah, you better run. Have you guys ever done that? Like, would you ever do that? Just even having seen Reba in that scene, I would shut my fucking mouth. Like, I'm scared Reba's going to listen to this podcast and then yell at me. Kyle's at the table going, can you give me a little heads up before this happens? In a talking head, Kyle says, I really appreciate Garcelle's optimism, but I just don't think meddling in a relationship that is this complex when you don't know Reba is a little presumptuous. Yeah, you can say that, Kyle. You own a gun now. Kyle's like, well, this little Smith & Wesson, I can talk to anybody. Let me talk to Reba. So anyway, Sutton's like, well, yeah, I'll let you know before she takes a scarf and wrings your neck. And they're all just laughing. And now we're back at the Chinese lady Kathy's Capri dinner, and they're being served this gorgeous lemon pasta. And Kathy's like, where's the fresh sage? Somebody's getting fired if I don't have fresh sage on this pasta right damn now. Please, konnichiwa. Bose goes, I have a question for you, Kathy. I've been trying to get to know all of the ladies, and your sister really well. And I assume that she's probably open and friendly and welcoming, but I have not found that. I find her to be cold. I would have spit my lemon pasta out right at that moment. Bose in a talking head says, I think Kyle has been cold to me because I immediately connected with Dorit. I mean, they've been having issues, so it kind of makes sense, but this is also very elementary school. It's really pity. Welcome to Kyle Richards, Petty, Petty. Bose at the table says, what are your thoughts about where she is right now? I mean, I think it would be really helpful to understand where she is in her own mental state, I guess. And Dorit's like, I don't even know what's really going on in Kyle's life. And I'm like, oh no, please, let's not get into your relationship with Kyle. Dorit's like, does she open up a lot about what's going on? And Kathy's like, who, Kyle? Oh, well, I don't like to push her too much because that's when she gets, she doesn't like that. I love how Kathy's like, I'm scared of Kyle. So I try to be very careful and not bother her. Everybody goes through something in life, and this is traumatic for her, being married basically your whole life. And I just tread lightly because I just want to make her feel. And Bosie goes, you tread lightly? And Kathy goes, I want to make her feel comfortable and loved. She's a Capricorn. And if you needed something, she would be there. And she turns to Dorit. How are you? Speaking of, has Kyle taking care of you? How are you, Dorit? And Dorit holds up this beautiful monogram cloth napkin, which I'm glad Kathy didn't have out the night I was there because it would have gone in my pocket. So Dorit's looking at this napkin and she's like, these are so beautiful. Kathy and Rick Hilton. My life is pretty shitty right now. When PK and I separated, he was my friend. And Kathy goes, who couldn't help but love PJ? And Juliana, I swear to God, I did not, it's so clear now that I watch it back, but I did not catch it. But she's like, who wouldn't love PJ? Oh, PK? No, I always thought it was PJ for years now. PJ. Erica goes, PK. And Kathy flips her head around and goes, PK. PJ? PK? And the producer asks Kathy in a talking head, you are one of the long married couples, so what do you attribute to your longevity? Well, not knowing your partner's name. I've been with Slick for a while now. No, she goes, Well, we started out very young. We grew up together. We enjoy the same things. We don't have to be out to dinner with couples every single, we just enjoy. We're not one of those Lisa Barlow types, just getting into circle jerks and all of this such. We enjoy being together. And Dorit continues at the table. When PK and I decided to separate, we had said we're going to work on the resentment and the issues that we have that had built up over the last few years. And Kathy goes, because you always kept everything very close to the vest. I was very protective of my husband, PJ, and my family. It's the way I grew up. And Erica's like, which is what you do. And Dorit's like, even when I was going through the worst of the worst, I would go through it alone because I didn't want anyone to think badly of him. And Erica's like, yeah, why wouldn't you? You had 2 children with him. We understand that. And Kathy goes, I think PJ's a very good father. Am I correct? And then Dorit goes, wrong. Zoinks. Guys, take a second right now to go, zoinks. Whoa, wrong. In a talking head, Dorit goes, there are times when I think PK is the greatest father in the world, but is he the most hands-on father? The truth is, no. And you know what? I mean, yeah, the dude's in London. He won't text you back. How's he going to be hands-on? And remember, PK had a whole other family before he got with Dorit and this family. Wild. And Kathy goes, so you're feeling, she's like, so you're feeling, oh, see, I thought you were going to say yes. Kathy doesn't, oh no. Can I get some more basil? I'm going to need more basil. Oh God. And Dorit pauses. I would have, ordinarily. Protected him, I would. Reality? No. So she's like, yeah, I would protect him and say he was the best father in the past, but now I don't think so. In a talking head, she elaborates. She goes, he would disappear and be gone for weeks and weeks without even calling the kids. I worked overtime to put it in their heads that their father was trying to call, wanting to see them, missed them so much. I have protected him at all costs, no matter what, and I don't think he realizes that. This MFer. Oh my God. Can you imagine? Oh, sorry, your dad is in space. Yes, he has gone to Mars to see if we can save Earth. He will be gone for as long as it takes back to get from Mars to here. Yes, he is saving the world, kids. Yes, Jagger, your dad is saving the world. He's in space. That's where he is. Holy moly. Kathy goes, well, how old is he? And Dorit goes, 56. And Kathy goes, when I first met him, I thought he was 56. I've known him a long time. And Bose goes, girl, have some shade. She's like, girl, the Chinese will really get at you like that. But, I mean, to be fair, though, like, this was a funny bit from Kathy, but I was the same. Like, I thought, remember when PK, I thought he was 50. I don't know if I was like, oh, that's 56, but I thought he was older. Like, truly, I was, if you asked me right now how old PK was, I'd say 65. I'd say, yeah, 65. Like, and by the way, that's fine, right? And Erica to Bose goes, that's why I closed my eyes. That was shady. And Kathy goes, no, I mean, but now, the more I got to know PJ, I feel terrible. And Bose mutters again, ooh, the smoothest shade I've ever heard in my life. And Erica's like, kind of just cracking up to herself. Bose in a talking head is laughing. She's like, I have nothing to say, okay? Because black don't crack, so I know nothing about that. Yeah, like, oh, God. I mean, PK looks old. We can say it, right? Dorit goes, I don't think he'd be doing what he's doing now. And Kathy's like, what is he doing? I'm the girl that wants to know. And Dorit goes, he left a really angry, horrible note. And Erica's like, what is it? What did it say? And Dorit goes, just the finances. I'm going to stop paying this and you're going to be liable for this. And Kathy goes, where is he going with this? And Erica's like, that's a divorce. Erica knows immediately. I know those emails, yeah. Kathy goes, I thought we were trying to take a little separation. And Erica's like, right, that's not a separation. I mean, yeah, Erica can stand on business on this one. She's studied divorce and how all of this works. But I am so confused because remember when Dorit was on the season premiere of Beverly Hills this season on Watch What Happens Live, Andy asked her about PK and said, yes, we're doing good. We're working through it. So like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And listen, I get why you lie on these things, I guess, but at the same time, it comes out and it's like, just, I don't know, like in those moments, are you just trying to like protect the sanctity of the show or surprise the audience? Are you doing it for your kids? Because maybe little Jagaloo loves watch what happens live. Dorit in the Talking Head lets us know she woke up to a 7-page email and it was a barrage. It was a barrage. She says it was predominantly financials. His expectations were within a month or two that I will be responsible for the mortgage and all the bills associated with this house. There was also discussion of custody, lawyers, and threats of if this doesn't happen, I will be proceeding with divorce. Like, what the fuck? Like, if you don't start paying the house, I'll divorce you. Well, isn't that divorce already? If you're talking about like, you're going to take over this, like, and also listen, just, we're so nosy about everything, but like, why can't we be nosy about this? Why can't we see the 7-page email? Like, come on, man. We don't even get to see the memes. We don't get to see we just got to see like a random text. Let's see the email. Let's see a little clip of the email. Let's see some of the come on, man. Like, oh, what you're going to have to pay for this? No more. I'm not. You're like, what the fuck, dude? He's a bloated alcoholic. Of course she's angry, dude. And this is just feeding into everything. So when Kyle pisses her off, she's going to fucking, because Kyle's actually there in front of her. PK's 3,000 miles away. And Dorit in the scene goes, it's like, what the fuck? And Erica immediately is like,
get a fucking lawyer.
And Dorit's like, he is not a man I recognize at all. Oh my God, wouldn't this be crazy amazing? I don't think he's with his faculties right now. But what if Erica's like,
I know someone.
And then like calls Tom.
Tom, we haven't talked in a while. This is Erica. I need your help. You need help Dorit with her divorce.
And he's like, I remember you, Erica. Can I tell you a story about when I met John Wayne? So Erica says, this is, in the Talking Head, she's like, this is what happens when people get a divorce. The email and the comment of being a good father or not, the gloves are off. Everybody says they're absolute worst. And that's what's coming out. I have not seen one woman have a peaceful divorce unless the guy died. Which is very...
I was waiting for this guy to die.
But like, whoa, the gloves fully are off. And I do, like I said, I've had a lot of issues with Erica over the years. I still don't love what motivates her and, you know, the money and all that stuff. But man, I appreciated her in this scene. And Erica's like,
can I ask a question? And you can hate me for this. What are you holding on to? What are you doing?
So she's like, yeah, why are you still wanting this? And Bose is like, do you think he still wants to be married to you? And Dorit's like, no, I don't. And Erica's like, then what are you waiting for? And Dorit nods. And Dorit goes, I am the token idiot wife. And Bose goes, no, you're not. You're not. This is why I love that Bose is in this season to pump Dorit up. And she's like, what you're doing, Dorit, is taking the rose-colored glasses off your face. This is what you're doing. And Dorit's like, right, rose-colored glasses equals idiot. And Bose goes, and it's about time. And Kathy's like, what about the contact lenses? And Bose is like, stay out of this, Kathy. Dorit's like, you know, we've been married 9.5 years, and I just found out that that's a law in California. And Erica immediately goes,
yeah, it's community property. You can get half. He's trying to divorce you before 10 years.
And Bose is like, when is 10 years? And Dorit's like, in 6 months. At this point, Kathy should have been like, dinner's over. We need to prepare. Go to Kyle's house. Get her gun. Like, everybody, like, this is... Okay, so I first learned about this 10-year California law. The reason I learned about this initially was because of the Tom Cruise-Nicole Kidman divorce way back in the day, right? Let's take a little trip down pop culture lane with me, if you will. So kids at home, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, both actors, they used to be married, right? A lot of people have forgotten that sometimes. They met on the set of a movie called Days of Thunder. They married in a private ceremony later that year, and they divorced in 2001. And they did it right before the 10-year marriage mark. And that was... you know, people felt very purposeful, so he didn't have to give half away, right? That's how I first learned about this law. So it is, it's wild that PK is pulling the trigger at this moment. And so, but by the way, though, they're still married. It's past 10 years. So maybe they are working on it. Or have they secretly already started, like, did the divorce? How does this work? Lawyers, reach out to me. But Bose is like, oh, hell no. And she throws her napkin. And Kathy's like, that's my nice monogram napkin. Oh my God, ain't no way, girl, no way. And Dorit's like, that fucking hurt. I don't know this man, this bloated alcoholic. Erica in a talking head goes, in California, when you hit the 10-year mark, it's considered a long-term marriage, which means it's half, and that's that. And I think spousal support is forever after a 10-year marriage. One of you is going to be paying for the length of the other person's life.
That's why if you're going to jump ship, do it before 10 years.
And Erica at the table is like,
Dorit, I worry about you, I really do. And I'm sorry you're going through this, but I cannot sit here and bullshit with you.
And Kathy's like, right. This is crazy with PJ. And Erica's like, when I know what's coming for you, Dorit, I wouldn't be a good friend. You've begged for honesty and I'm going to give it to you. You have to protect yourself. You have to go. Hold on a second. The price of poker has completely changed. I was like, where's she going with this? And she continues, this is not my partner. This is not my friend. She's saying, this is no longer your partner. This is no longer your friend. This is your nemesis. And Bose is like, yeah. And Erica is sharp. She's like,
this is my adversary now, and let me tell you, that is a fucked up place as I have hair on my arms.
She's like, that is a fucked up place as I have hair on my arms?
As I have hair on my nuts.
That is a fucked up place to be, but that is where you are, she tells Dorit. And I don't know any other way to say that to you. You have to be proactive. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make these decisions, life will make it for you. Okay, Erica, I see you. And Bose is like, yeah, he will make it for you. And Erica continues, he will make it for you. Please be proactive. And I'm preaching to myself as much as I'm preaching to you because I could have done a better job for myself.
I should have left that man while I could still get money.
But she says, but I was paralyzed by fear and I waited till the last minute and I shouldn't have. Well, okay. Bo says, yeah, don't get to that place of being desperate. Desperation breeds no good strategy, girl. That's what I've heard in business. And Dorit's like, oh, God. In a talking head, Dorit goes, I know this. If I have to go to war, I will go to war. Once you get to that headspace, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy to pull me back. Dorit at the table says, but don't you think I have to be sure that I don't want to go back? And Erica goes,
he doesn't want you back.
Whoa. And Bose goes, oof. And Dorit goes, if that's the case. And Erica goes, everything you've told us tonight indicates that that's the situation.
You gotta get out. You gotta get out.
It was so intense. And like, Erica nailed it. He doesn't want Dorit back. Like, it is so clear. And just put yourself then in Dorit's situation of this man that promised you everything. Oh, you're the love of my life. Oh, come into PK's loving embrace. And then all of a sudden, he wakes up and he's like, no, you've changed. On to the next one, as Jay-Z says. No. Like, how shocked you would be. And you have these two beautiful kids. You're trying to keep up this lifestyle. Oh, my God. Next week on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, we have Erica overseeing her redecorating. So that means we get more Martin. And, she's like, this cabana is giving new life. Oh, we're going to get this is going to be great. And then we have Avi, Sutton's assistant, checking, like, the food. And Reba, Sutton's mom's like, you don't want dry grits, Avi, turn it off. And then we have Bose talking to her daughter, Lael, saying Keely and I are talking about having a baby. And then we have a scene where Bose to Dorit says, he never said the words, I love you. And Dorit gasps. And then Dorit to Bose, Dorit says, you guys, I spoke to PK. And Bose, angry, says, what did he say, girl? And then Garcelle in a scene with Reba, Sutton's mom, just Reba and Sutton's mom. Garcelle's like, Sutton would love to hear you say that you're proud of her and that you love her too. And Reba's like, I don't think that's any of your business. Ugh, I don't think that's any of your business. Holy moly. I told you that was not going to go well. So we look like, guys, I think we recovered from the memes and the text that was bogging down this series. And now, mid-season, we are off on some new adventures that are frightening and jaw-dropping. And I am so in support of Dorit and Kyle. I want Kyle's thoughts after this episode. And I want Kyle to take herself out of her own traumatic bubble that she's in, which is traumatic, and really reach out to, I hope Kyle is so reaching out to Dorit, and I hope people are really showering Dorit with love. And I do believe Dorit is a very strong person, but I believe that she is in a situation that she did not prepare for at all. What did you guys think? What did you think of the episode as a whole? Let me know. This was a lot of fun. We'll be doing the Salt Lake recap. We got a bunch of other things. We got the Traders coming. Thank you for supporting all the shows. And yeah, I really appreciate doing this. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good Thursday. Seacrest out. What?